ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Namaskar, my dear friends. This is video number 9 on Bhagwan Sri Ramana Maharishi's teachings in his own words. Continuing from the 8th video, I start this video number 9. When asked if occult powers, siddhis can be achieved with the divine state, Ishvartva, as mentioned in the last verse of Dakshinamurti Stotra, the Maharshi said, let the divine state be achieved first and then the other questions may be raised. No powers can extend into self-realization, so how can they extend beyond it? People who desire powers are not content with their idea of pure consciousness. They are inclined to neglect the supreme happiness of realization for the sake of powers. In search of these, they follow by lanes instead of the high road and so risk losing their way. In order to guide them aright and keep them on the high road, they are told that powers accompany realization. In fact, realization comprises everything, and the realized man will not waste a thought on powers. Let people first get realization and then seek powers if they still want to. Powers may accrue before or after attaining a realization, or they may not according to the nature of the person, but they are not to be valued or sought after, nor is their absence or the absence of visions or other such experiences to be taken as cause for discouragement on the path. Devotee, is it not necessary or at least advantageous to render the body invisible in one's spiritual progress? Bhagwan, why do you think of that? Are you the body? Devotee, no, but advanced spirituality must effect a change in the body, must not it? Bhagwan, what change do you desire in the body and why? Devotee, is not invisibility evidence of advanced wisdom jnana? Bhagwan, in that case, all those who spoke and wrote and passed their lives in the sight of others must be considered ignorant, agyanis. Devotee, but the sages Vasishtha and Valmiki possessed such powers. Bhagwan, it may have been their destiny, prarabdha, or to develop such powers, siddhis, side by side with their wisdom, jnana. Why should you aim at that which is not essential, but is apt to prove a hindrance to wisdom, jnana? Does the sage jnani feel oppressed by his body being visible? Devotee, no. B. Bhagwan, a hypnotist can suddenly render himself invisible. Is he therefore a sage? Devotee, no. Bhagwan, visibility and invisibility refer to him who sees. Who is that? Solve that question first. Other questions are unimportant. An American visitor was discouraged at having attained no powers. Devotee, I have been interesting myself in metaphysics for over 20 years, but I have not gained any novel experiences as so many others claim to. I have no powers of clairvoyance, clairaudience, and so on. I feel locked up in this body, nothing more. Bhagwan, that's all right. Reality is only one, and that is the self. All other things are mere phenomena in it, of it, and by it. Seer, sight, and seen are all the self only. Can anyone see or hear without the self? What difference does it make if you see or hear anyone close up or at a great distance? The organs of sight and hearing are needed in both cases. So is the mind. None of them can be dispensed with. In either case, you are dependent on them. Why then should others be any glamour about clairvoyance or clear audience? Moreover, what is acquired will also be lost in due course. It can never be permanent. The only permanent thing is the reality, and that is the self. You say, I am going, I am speaking, I am working, and so on. Hyphenate the I am in all of them. Thus I am. That is the abiding and fundamental reality. This truth was taught by God to Moses. I am that I am. Be still and know that I am God. So I am is God. From what has been said up to here, it will be seen that self realization is the most simple and natural thing. In fact, the only simple and natural thing, simply the state of being, that which is, and yet it is a state most rare, unknown to the sense, glimpsed briefly by the mystics, almost thousands there is perhaps one who strives to be perfect. Among thousands who strive to be perfect, there is perhaps one who knows me as I am. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse 3. Unfortunately, it is signs of our times that attainment of this supreme state is falsely claimed for many. The aspirant needs to discriminate. Once attained, the supreme state must be the same by whatever path and whatever religion it was approached, being by its very nature beyond differentiation. Once attained, the state of self realization is the same by whatever path and in whatever religion it may be approached. There are three aspects of God according to one's approach to realization. They are Sat, being, Chit, consciousness, Ananda, bliss. The aspect of being is emphasized by jnanis who are said to repose in the essence of being after incessant search and to have their individuality lost in the Supreme. The consciousness aspect is approached by yogis who exert themselves to control their breath in order to steady the mind and are then said to see the glory consciousness of being of God as the one light radiating in all directions. The beatitude aspect is approached by devotees who become intoxicated with the nectar of love of God and lose themselves in blissful experience. Unwilling to leave this, they remain forever merged in God. The four margas, karma, bhakti, yoga, and jnana, are not exclusive of one another. They are described separately in classical works only to convey an idea of the appropriate aspect of God to appear readily to the aspirant according to his predisposition. Experience of realization is known as samadhi. It is often supposed that samadhi implies trance, but that is not necessarily so. It is also possible to be in a state of samadhi while retaining full possession of human faculties. In fact, a self-realized sage such as the Maharshi dwells permanently in this state. Even the pre-glimpses of realization spoke of earlier do not necessarily imply trance. The sannyasi visitor, Swami Lokeswarananda, asked about samadhi. Bhagwan replied, Number 1, holding on to the reality is samadhi. Number 2, holding on to samadhi with effort is savikalpa samadhi. Third, merging in reality and remaining unaware of world is nirvikalpa samadhi. Fourth, merging in ignorance and remaining unaware of the world is sleep. Fifth, remaining in the primal, pure, natural state without effort is sahaja nirvikalpa samadhi. Comparison between sleep, kevala, and sahaja. Sleep, number 1, mind alive. Kevala, number 1, mind alive. Sahaja, number 1, mind dead. Sleep, second point, sunk in oblivion. Kevala, number 2, sunk in light. Sahaja, number 2, resolved into the self. Kevala, third, like a bucket with a rope left lying in the water in the well. Sahaja, third, like a river discharged into the ocean and its identity lost. Kevala, fourth, to be drawn out by the other end of the road. Sahaja, a river cannot be redirected from the ocean. The old gentleman asked Bhagwan whether it was not necessary to go through Nirvikalpa Samadhi first before attaining to Sahaja Samadhi. Bhagwan replied, when we have tendencies that we are trying to give up, that is to say, when we are still imperfect and have to make conscious effort to keep the mind one-pointed or free from thought, the thoughtless state which we thus attain is a nirvikalpa samadhi. When, through practice, we are always in that state, not going into samadhi and coming out again, that is the sahaja state. In the sahaja state, one sees only the self and one sees the world as a form assumed by the self. The question of the nature of samadhi brings with it the question of activity. Uselessly trying to imagine what samadhi is or what realization implies, instead of striving to attain it, people form theories as to whether the realized man can be active or not. Devotee, can a man who has attained realization move about and act and speak? Bhagwan, why not? Do you suppose realization means being inert like a stone or becoming nothing? Devotee, I do not know, but they say that the highest state is the withdrawal from all sense activities, thoughts, and experiences, in fact, cessation of activity. Bhagwan, then how would it differ from deep sleep? Besides, it would be a state which, however exalted, comes and goes and would therefore not be the natural and normal state. So, how could it represent the eternal presence of the Supreme Self, which persists through all states and survives them? It is true that there is such a state, and that in the case of some people it may be necessary to go through it. It may be a temporary phase of the quest, or it may persist to the end of man's life, if it be the divine will or the man's destiny, but in any case, You cannot call it the highest state. If it were, you would have to say that not only the sages but God Himself has not attained the highest state, since not only are the realized sages very active, but the personal God Isvara Himself is obviously not in this supremely inactive state, since He presides over the world and directs its activity. Devotee, what is Samadhi? Bhagwan. In yoga, the term is used to indicate some kind of trance, and there are various kind of Samadhi. But the Samadhi I speak to you about is different. It is Sahaja Samadhi. In this state, you remain calm and composed during activity. You realize that you are moved by the deeper real self within and are unaffected by what you do or say or think. You have no worries, anxieties, or cares, for you realize that there is nothing that belongs to you as ego and that everything is being done by something with which you are in conscious union. After realization, a man may continue to life of worldly activity or he may not. It makes no difference to his state. A visitor said realized men generally withdraw from active life and abstain from worldly activity. Bhagwan, they may or they may not. Some, even after realization, carry on trade or business or rule a kingdom. Some withdraw to solitary places and abstain from all activity more than the minimum necessary to keep life in the body. We cannot make any general rule about it. Inability to understand the apparent inactivity of the sage is one of the difficulties of many. Western writers firmly convinced that Christ was mistaken in saying that Mary had chosen the better part. Modern Christians are apt to represent Martha, the outwardly active one, as superior and to criticize the sage for what they consider inaction. When asked by an aspirant whether his realization, if attained, would help others, Bhagwan has been known to reply, yes, and it is the best help you possibly can give them. But then he asked, but in fact there are no others to help. The same paradox is proclaimed in Buddhism, where, for instance, in the Diamond Sutra, after speaking of compassion, the Buddha explains that in reality there are no others to be compassionate to. The Lord Buddha continued, do not think, Subhuti, that the Tathagata, that is the Buddha, would consider within himself, I will deliver human beings. That would be a degrading thought. Why? Because there are really not sentient beings to be delivered by the Tathagata. Should there be any sentient beings to be delivered by the Tathagata, it would mean that Tathagata was cherishing within his mind arbitrary conception of phenomena such as one's own self, other selves, living beings, and universal self. Even when the Tathagata refers to himself, he is not holding within his mind any such arbitrary thought. Only terrestrial mind being think of selfhood as being a personal possession. Subhuti, even the expression terrestrial being as used by the Tathagata does not mean that there are any such beings. It is only used as a figure of speech. People often say that realized man should go about preaching his message. They ask how a man can remain quiet in realization when there is misery also existing. But what is realized man? Does he see misery outside himself? They want to determine his state without themselves realizing it. From his standpoint, their contention amounts to this. A man has a dream in which he sees a number of persons. On waking up, he asks, have the people in the dream also woken up? It is ridiculous. Again, some good man says, it does not matter even if I do not get realization. Let me be the last man in the world to get it so that I can help all the others to become realized before I do. That is just like the dreamer saying, let all these people in the dream wake up before I do. He would be no more absurd than this amiable philosopher. And yet, paradoxically, the sage is intensely active although he may apparently be inactive. A saying of Lao Tse from the Tao Te Ching was read out in the hall, but his non-action the sage governs all. Sri Bhagwan remarked, non-action is unceasing activity. The sage is characterized by eternal and incessant activity. His stillness is like the apparent stillness of a fast rotating top. It is moving too fast for the eye to see, so it appears to be still, yet it is rotating. So is the apparent inaction of the sage. This has to be explained because people generally mistake his stillness for inertness. It is not so. Similar to this preoccupation with action was the question of whether the realized man is bound by destiny. Really, the question has no meaning. His body is bound by destiny, but since he does not identify himself with the body, its destiny cannot bind him. Being one with the eternal self within which this body, his life, this would passes like an appearance. He cannot be bound by anything. This morning a visitor said to Bhagwan, the realized man has no karma. He is not bound by destiny, so why should he still retain a body? Bhagwan. Bhagwan, who asked this question, a realized man or an unrealized man? Why worry about what the realized man does or why he does anything? Better think about yourself. He was then silent. After a while, however, he explained further. You are under the impression that you are the body, so you think the realized man also has a body. Does he say that he has one? He may seem to he may seem to you to have one and to do things with it as others do. The charred ashes of a rope look like a rope, but they are of no use to tie anything with it so long as one identifies oneself with the body. All this is hard to understand. That's why it is something said in answer to such questions that the body of the realized man continues to exist until his destiny has worked itself out and then it falls away. An example of this that is sometimes given is that an arrow which has been loosed from the bow destiny must continue its course and hit the mark even though the animal that stood there has moved away and another has taken its place. That is, realization has been achieved. But the truth is that the realized man has transcended all destiny and is bound neither by the body nor by its destiny. Equally beside the point is the question of whether the realized man can feel pain or pleasure. If pleasure, then pain also, because the two go together, they are a pair of opposites. The sensation is common both to the realized man and to the unrealized man. The difference is that the unrealized man identifies himself with the body that feels it, whereas the realized man knows that all this is self, all this is Dharma. If there is pain, let it be, it is also a part of the self, and the self is perfect. Or whether he can commit sins. The very raising of this question implies failure to understand what is meant by self-realization. Sin is the action of the ego or the individual being in its own interest against the universal harmony or the will of God. But where there is no ego, where there is only the universal self, who is to act against whom? An unrealized man sees one who is realized and identifies himself with the body because he does not know the self and mistakes the body for the self. He extends the same mistake to the body of the realized man. The latter is therefore considered to be the physical form. Again, the unrealized man, though in fact not the originator of his actions, imagines himself to be so, and he considers the actions of the body as his own actions, and therefore he thinks that the realized man is acting in the same way because his body is active, but the latter knows the truth and is not deceived. His state cannot be understood by the unrealized, and therefore the question of his action troubles the latter, although it does not arise for himself. All good or divine qualities are included in jnana, spiritual enlightenment, and all bad or satanic qualities in ajnana, spiritual darkness. When jnana comes, all ajnana goes, so that all divine qualities come automatically. If a man is a jnani, he cannot internalize or commit any sin. The saying that there is no ego or that the mind is dead sometimes leads to misunderstandings. What is meant is simply that the mind or ego, as apparent creator or originator of policies, plans, and ideas, is dead. Understanding remains and pure radiant consciousness. So I end this video here. Next video will start with this paragraph, the saying that there is no ego. So thank you my dear friends for watching this video. Please like, comment and share the video and subscribe the channel. Thanks a lot. Namaskar.